All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are diving deep today
Deep dive.
into the world of European rail operators.
Yeah.
And I know you've told us that you are planning some trips sometime soon, so you really want to make sure you're up to speed on this new report
Yeah.
from the European Federation for Transport and Environment. It's called Mind the Gap, Europe's Rail Operators, a comparative ranking.
All right.
And it caught our eye
Yeah.
for a few reasons.
Um,
One of which is that a lot of these, best of reports
right.
really rely on operators tooting their own horns, right?
Eking their own horns, yeah.
Or they just look at the
Rail for
network
practice self.
themselves.
Yeah.
But this one actually looks at 27 specific companies
Right. The ones you actually buy tickets from.
across 21 countries.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's pretty comprehensive.
it's a pretty big deal. And the findings,
Yeah.
pretty interesting, I got to say.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to figure out, I guess, like, are those pricey tickets really worth it?
Yeah.
Are the newer companies doing better than the old ones?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And of course, we have to, like, reveal the best and the worst
Of course, the crown.
overall.
Yeah, and I think I've spent some time with this report,
Okay.
and what really stands out to me is the context surrounding it.
Mhm.
Europe is really focused on getting to zero emission transportation, and rail is a key part of that.
And the report reminds us that, rail is responsible for such a tiny amount
so
of
very
emissions.
fast.
Yeah, a measly 0.4%.
That's crazy.
It's pretty wild when you consider that it carries 7% of passenger traffic
Yeah.
for the EU.
It really highlights the potential.
The potential, yeah.
So this report, it's not just a ranking.
Right.
It's kind of a roadmap for operators and policymakers
Correct, yeah.
to improve the service
Mhm.
and attract more passengers.
Attract more passengers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to do that, I guess, like, we need to know what's working and what's not working.
What's working, what needs improvement.
Who's doing
Yeah. Who's setting the bar high?
a great job. But before we get to that, like the juicy stuff, like the top and the bottom, I think it would be helpful to kind of break down, like, how they actually came up with these rankings.
Yeah. How do you compare all these different?
I'm different contexts, different countries. How do you
Yeah.
do it?
Well, they used 8 criteria.
8.
8 criteria, and I was impressed with how much thought went into it.
Okay.
Ticket prices, unsurprisingly, were weighted the most heavily
Okay.
at 25% of the score.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. For a lot of people, it's a major factor, right?
Absolutely.
When choosing how to travel.
You can't just compare prices one to one, though, right?
Yeah. No, you can't.
Like, obviously, the cost of living varies
Yeah,
pretty significantly across Europe. So
for sure.
how do they deal with that?
So they normalized prices across countries,
Okay.
which I think levels the playing field a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
They also looked at special fares
Okay.
and discounts,
Uh,
which counted for 15%.
okay.
Because, a high base ticket price can be mitigated if
If you've got options.
if you've got, options.
For families,
Students, yeah.
seniors, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Making it accessible to more people.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. The next 2 criteria, each worth 15%,
Okay.
are all about keeping things running smoothly.
Right.
Reliability.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Reliability.
Because, oh my gosh, who
Yeah.
hasn't had their travel plans just totally thrown to chaos?
Delays.
Yeah, train delays or cancellation.
All right. It's incredibly frustrating.
The worst.
Yeah. So they looked at
But how do they measure that?
punctuality rates, how transparent operators are about delays,
Wow.
even how they define a delayed train.
Wow, they really dug deep on that.
They dug deep.
Okay, so reliability, that's a big one.
Big one.
What's the other one?
Booking experience.
Booking experience. Okay, because
Because, honestly,
it shouldn't feel like you need a PhD to buy a train ticket.
no, you shouldn't. You really shouldn't.
So what, like, how?
So they looked at how user-friendly the websites are
Okay.
and the apps are,
Uh-huh.
how easy it is to find information,
Right.
and how well they handle things like seat selection
Right.
or special requests.
I mean, with all the competition, right, from like
Yeah.
the airlines and ride sharing, I feel like
Absolutely.
it's more important than ever.
Yeah, the other travel options have really raised the bar, so
Raise the bar.
the report recognizes that
They got to keep up.
they have to keep up, yeah.
Okay, so we've got ticket prices, we've got special fares, reliability, booking experience.
We've got 4 more.
What are the last 4?
So These last four kind of dig a bit deeper
Okay.
to passenger rights and overall experience.
Okay.
So they looked at compensation policies,
Uh-huh.
meaning how well operators take care of you if something goes wrong,
Like a delay.
like a major delay or cancellation.
Right.
That's 10% of the score.
Okay.
Then traveler experience, things like onboard Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
catering, power outlets, that's another 10%.
Okay, so it's not just about getting there.
No,
It's about how much you enjoy
it's about the journey, right?
your journey.
Yeah, how enjoyable is the journey?
Okay, and the last two.
The last two are interesting.
Okay.
They reflect some of the kind of emerging trends
Okay.
in European rail travel.
I like that.
They looked at night train development,
Okay.
which is making a big comeback,
Oh, nice.
cycling policies,
Interesting.
or how easy it is to travel with your bike.
Okay.
And each of those contributes 5% to the overall ranking.
I'm curious about that. Like the night train one.
Yeah.
Like what were they actually looking at there?
So they assessed the number of night train routes offered,
Right.
the quality of sleeping accommodations,
Right.
and the overall investment that operators are making in this type of travel.
So not just having a couple
No, not just having a couple.
rattling around,
It's about actively
promoting it.
promoting and improving it.
Okay, and then the cycling one.
Yeah, the cycling one,
That's it interesting.
that's a big deal as people prioritize sustainable travel options.
For sure.
So they looked at whether you can take your bike on board,
Okay.
if there are dedicated spaces,
Okay.
if there are any additional fees involved.
All about those connections, huh?
Yeah, it's about that last mile connectivity,
Uh-huh.
making it easy to combine train travel with other eco-friendly.
Other ways of getting around.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think, having those two things
Yeah.
really shows that they were thinking,
Forward-looking.
forward-looking.
Yeah, it's not just ranking them based on
Right.
the status quo,
The status quo, but
pushing them.
to embrace new ideas,
Yeah.
to cater to evolving passenger needs.
So they're like, hey, this is where things are headed. Are you on board?
Are you on board?
Okay, now for the moment, I know everyone's been waiting for the
It's right.
rankings.
The ranking.
Where do they all stand?
Where do they all stand?
And who comes out on top?
Well, drum roll, the top three overall performers are Trenitalia, SBB, and RegioJet.
Trenitalia. Okay, so that's Italy's main operator, right?
Yeah, it is.
What makes them so special?
Well, they're committed to quality across the board.
So you said earlier, high prices don't always equal high quality.
Right.
It sounds like they're proving you don't have to break the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what about SBB?
SBB, so that's Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland.
They take the top spot for reliability.
Makes sense, those Swiss clocks.
Swiss clocks, yeah.
They don't mess around.
They don't mess around, but...
It's interesting. They don't score as well on the compensation,
Oh, really?
which is interesting.
I mean, maybe their thinking is, we're so reliable, we don't need to offer compensation.
Maybe.
But-
yeah,
Stuff happens, so...
enough happens.
Okay, what about RegioJet?
So RegioJet, I wasn't that familiar with them before this.
Yeah, me neither.
But they operate mainly in Central and Eastern Europe,
Okay.
and they're really hitting that sweet spot of good service and reasonable prices.
I love that. I love
Yeah, it's cool.
the competition, the innovation.
New players shaking things up a bit.
Okay, enough celebrating the winners. Let's talk about who landed at the bottom.
Okay, the bottom of the pack, we've got Ouigo, Hellenic Trains, and wait for it,
Oh,
Eurostar.
Eurostar. Really?
I know, right?
I've always thought of them as kind of a premium service.
Yeah, so did I.
What happened?
They struggled with ticket prices, and their cycling policies were not great.
Okay,
But, to be fair,
to be fair.
those high ticket prices, not entirely their fault.
What do you mean?
So they have to deal with things like the UK's rail infrastructure costs.
Oh, right.
And the channel tunnel fees are really high.
So those external factors can really make a difference.
They really can, but, even taking that into account, they could still improve. Like, they could offer more special fares.
Right. Or make it easier to travel with bikes.
Exactly. It's all about those multimodal journeys now.
Multimodal.
People want to combine,
More sustainable.
yeah, with cycling or ride sharing or whatever.
It's all about those connections.
Seamless connections.
Okay, let's unpack some of these criteria a little bit more.
Yeah, let's do it.
Starting with ticket prices. I'm ready for some sticker shock.
All right, well, Eurostar ticket prices were almost twice the European average.
Ouch. Okay, but they had those external factors.
They did.
What about other operators? Were those high prices always justified?
Not necessarily. So they compare GWR, a UK operator,
Right.
with RegioJet, and both of them score very similarly
Okay.
on the non-pricing factors like reliability.
Reliability, traveler experience, that kind of.
Exactly. But
Right.
GWR tickets are 6 times more expensive.
Wow. So price doesn't always equal quality.
No, not at all.
I mean, besides those external costs we talked about,
Hmm.
what else explains these big price differences?
I mean, it could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
The age of their rolling stock,
Mhm.
labor costs,
Right.
marketing, even their level of government subsidies.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it.
A puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to special fares and discounts.
Okay.
This is a big one for making it accessible, right?
Absolutely, for everyone, not just the business travelers.
So who's doing well in this category?
Some operators are really shining here. Companies like BDZ in Bulgaria,
What?
CP in Portugal,
Yeah.
Italo, Trenitalia, and SJ in Scandinavia. They're all making rail a realistic option for
Uh-huh.
families and younger travelers.
What about those budget operators like Flixtrain, WeGo?
Oh, yeah, good point. Good point.
They're known for those low fares, but did they skimp on the special offers?
It's interesting. Their business model is really based on those low base fares.
Right.
So they didn't do as well in this category, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker.
For people who are just looking for the cheapest option.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about knowing your priorities.
Absolutely.
If price is your number one.
Then you might be willing to forego some of those bells and whistles.
Okay, let's talk about reliability.
Oh, yeah, the big one.
Here,
Relays, cancellations.
ugh, the worst.
So SBB, once again, takes the gold for reliability.
Sluice clocks, we talked about it.
We did, but on the flip side,
Flip side,
operators like Deutsche Bahn in Germany,
okay.
CP in Portugal,
Uh-huh.
and Snälltåget in Sweden.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they had a tougher time.
I mean, what explains that?
It's probably a combination of factors, age and condition of the rail infrastructure, signaling systems, weather. I mean, even weather can play a role.
Right, and how effectively they're managed.
Yeah, management is huge, and
People just want to know they can rely on it
they do.
to get them where they need to go.
On time and without hassle.
Okay, transparency is key.
It really is, and that's where some operators fell short.
In what way?
The report found that some operators didn't even share their cancellation data,
Oh, really?
which is a red flag.
Yeah, how are you supposed to make a decision
Right, exactly.
if you don't know what's going on?
So it's about being upfront, honest
Yeah.
about those potential disruptions.
Okay, let's talk about booking experience.
Booking experience. Oh boy.
Oh, I know.
I've spent hours wrestling with clunky websites.
We've all been there.
We have, so who's making it easy?
Yeah, who's making it easy?
Well, SBB, DB, and OBB, they're leading the pack.
Good for them.
Websites are easy to navigate.
Nice.
They've got mobile apps with great reviews.
Uh-huh.
They've really invested in that digital experience.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They got to keep up with the times.
They have to.
So who's on the other end of the spectrum then?
So on the other end, we've got operators like ZSSK in Slovakia, Hellenic Trains in Greece, and BDZ in Bulgaria.
Got it.
They've got some work to do.
And it's not just about inconvenience, right?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, that frustration can really deter people from choosing rail.
For sure.
Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just been like, forget it, I'm just going to fly.
Yeah, and the report actually says the dropout rate for booking international train journeys is 10 times higher
Wow.
than for flights.
Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about compensation policies.
All right, compensation.
We all know delays happen,
Yeah.
but how well do these companies take care of passengers?
Yeah, when things go wrong.
When things go wrong.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Oh,
So EU regulations are actually behind some UK policies when it comes to this.
really?
I know, right?
I always thought the EU was ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, not in this case.
Interesting.
So the UK has stricter rules.
Like what?
They offer a 50% refund for delays between 30 and 59 minutes
Okay.
and a full refund after an hour.
Full refund after an hour. Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the EU standard is only 25% after an hour.
That's a big difference.
It is a big difference, and then 50% after 2 hours.
So who's going above and beyond, regardless of where they're operating?
So SNCB in Belgium, GWR in the UK, CP in Portugal,
Okay.
and Avanti, another UK operator, they all get a thumbs up.
Oh.
for their generous compensation policies.
Good for them.
And on the other end, we've got BDZ, CFR in Romania, SBB,
Interesting.
Snelteget, and ZSSK.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
Some are prioritizing it, others are not.
Not so much.
Okay, let's move on to the overall traveler experience.
Traveler experience. Okay.
You know, train travel should be more than just
It should be enjoyable.
getting from point A to B.
Absolutely.
So what are we talking about here?
Wi-Fi, food and beverage options, power outlets.
Okay, comfort, cleanliness, all that.
Yeah, the whole experience.
So who's making the journey as pleasant as possible?
SNCF in France,
Okay.
Trenitalia, and Deutsche Bahn. They
Nice.
all get high marks.
What about those who need to step it up?
Well, NS in the Netherlands,
Uh,
Hellenic Trains, and SNCB
okay,
could all use some improvements.
got it.
Whether it's the Wi-Fi, the
Yeah.
food, or just, cleanliness.
It's all part of the experience.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, let's talk about night trains.
Night trains, yeah.
I'm excited about this.
They're making a comeback
I love this.
as people look for more sustainable ways to travel long distances.
I love the idea of falling asleep in one city and waking up in another.
Yeah, it's magical.
Who's leading the charge here?
OBB from Austria
Okay.
and CFR from Romania, they're the champions.
Champions.
They're investing in modern, comfortable sleeper trains.
I love that.
They're offering diverse routes and really promoting this mode of travel.
It's like a throwback, but with modern amenities.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of trends, we can't forget about our cyclist listeners.
Yeah, our cyclists.
Combining rail and bike is a great way to explore sustainably,
It's fantastic.
but it can be tricky
It can be.
depending on the operator.
So who's making it easy?
Yeah, who's making it easy?
SNCB and SBB are leading the way.
Okay, good for them.
They make it easy to bring your bike,
Uh-huh.
often dedicated spaces, no crazy fees.
Good.
And then on the flip side,
Flip side.
we've got operators like SJ in Sweden,
Okay.
Renfe in Spain,
Uh-huh.
Ouigo, Italo, and Eurostar.
Interesting.
Could all learn a thing or two?
They're making it harder than it needs to be.
They are.
You'd think with this focus on sustainability,
Mm.
everyone would be embracing cyclists.
You would think so.
But some are slower to adapt.
They are.
Okay, but I think this report, it's not just about pointing fingers
No.
or
right.
celebrating.
It's about improving.
Improving, pushing the industry forward.
Exactly. It's a call to action.
What are some of those key recommendations?
They call for reducing rail tolls
Okay.
and VAT,
Interesting.
which could make tickets cheaper and, attract more riders.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It speaks to the need for governments to really prioritize rail.
If they want people to choose the train, right, over
Yeah.
cars or planes.
They have to make it financially appealing.
Absolutely.
The report also emphasizes the need to invest in infrastructure
Okay.
to boost reliability,
So like,
upgrading signal systems, modernizing tracks,
yeah, to make sure the trains run on time.
expanding capacity.
Those things are expensive though, right?
They are.
But in the long run, I guess it pays off.
Yeah, a more reliable system means happier passengers, less congestion on the roads.
And lower environmental impact.
Exactly. Precisely.
Okay, so we talk about compensation policies earlier, and
They recommend standardizing those across the EU.
it just seems like it makes sense
It does.
to prioritize passenger rights
Yeah.
and satisfaction.
You'd be surprised how often these things can get bogged down
Really?
in bureaucracy or face resistance from operators.
Really?
Yeah.
What, they don't want to...
They don't want to increase costs.
Right.
But the report makes a strong case for it.
Yeah.
If you want to make it appealing and competitive.
Make it a system that works for everybody.
For everybody, exactly.
Okay, so this report is focused on Europe, but
Right.
what about the rest of the world? What trends are we seeing?
Well, Asia's really leading the way
I've heard that.
in terms of high-speed rail.
Yeah.
China, in particular,
Uh,
has made huge strides connecting major cities
Uh-huh.
at speeds that are comparable to flying.
I've heard stories about those bullet trains, like,
It's great.
Beijing to Shanghai in just a few hours.
Yeah, a game changer.
So what can Europe learn from them?
I think the big takeaway is long-term vision
Okay.
and investment.
Yeah,
These high-speed rail projects, they're expensive,
they are.
but the long-term benefits
We're huge.
are huge for transport, the environment, the economy,
Playing the long game.
playing the long game exactly.
It seems like Europe is starting to catch on.
I think so. We're seeing more investment
Uh-huh.
in high-speed rail.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, last question before we wrap things up.
Hit me.
If you could change one thing
One thing.
about European rail travel,
Oh,
what would it be?
I would create a truly integrated European rail network.
Okay, what does that look like?
Imagine seamless travel between countries with standardized ticketing,
Okay.
coordinated schedules, no more language barriers.
That would be so nice.
It would be amazing.
I mean, it'd just make it so much easier.
So much easier and enjoyable.
Yeah.
It would revolutionize travel, I think.
Yeah, rail would be the best option for sure.
Best option. Boost tourism, economic growth, reduce environmental impact.
That's a beautiful vision.
It is. It is.
So for our listener who is planning some European rail adventures, what is the one key takeaway?
Do your research.
Okay.
This report is a great starting point,
Yeah.
but there's a ton of resources out there
Right.
to help you find the right operator for you.
Right.
What are your priorities? Is
Yeah.
it price,
Hmm.
comfort, speed,
Sustainability.
sustainability, and don't be afraid to try new things?
Yeah, like those night trains.
Night trains, those up-and-coming companies,
Yeah, love it.
challenging the status quo.
Rail travel is about so much more than just getting from point A to B.
Get a chance to slow down,
Yeah.
enjoy the journey.
See the world in a different way.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of European rail operators.
It's been fun.
We covered a lot of ground today, from ranking methodologies and sustainability to the future of rail travel.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
See ya.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those train wheels turning.